somehow within all that chaos, well, what happened? I mean, did someone pick you up? Church van swooped you up? Or what happened?
That's somewhat of an interesting story in itself. My brother, the same one who took his own life, came to know Jesus. And he was hanging out at this farm just outside of Detroit with a gentleman by the name of Chuck Fields. I remember him well. Jesus freaks, as they used to call him back then. Jesus hippies. They had different names for him. We'd listen to Godspell. They would smoke a joint and have Bible study, right?
Yeah.
Dude, man, open up Matthew.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So I was only 15. They wouldn't let me drink or smoke or anything else.
Right.
But man, did they love Jesus and a personal relationship with Jesus. So not the religious kind. It was a personal relationship.
Yeah.
And they shared with me about God and
Is this part going to be in the movie?
I sure hope so. I don't know.
Do too.
I do.
That's going to mess with some people's theology.
You better bet you. And I'm okay with that. I am okay with that because it is about a relationship.
All right, so we're here with Mark Goodman. And I had weird names for you last time you came in here. And I'm not going to do that to you this time.
The doctor, the Mr. Forgiveness, the doctor forgiveness. That's right, the sage.
Like
that was fun. That's I like just Mr. Forgiveness.
Mr. Forgiveness.
It's no high title or anything else. It's just one of those dudes that believes in forgiveness.
This is kind of an impromptu thing, which is kind of like my thing. I being creative, I kind of can't do things the same way every time, so I got to switch it up.
About you.
So I hit you up, and you're like, yeah, let's do it. And then you brought a crew, and we're international in here.
Yeah, we got Maëlle from France joined us.
Yeah.
Mark Green from 70x7.
Yeah, and Maëlle's petting my dog, whose name is Paris.
Yes.
There's a little irony in there. Yeah?
Yeah, oui, monsieur.
Yeah. And if anyone knows you, they know that you've been on this path for a while, getting the nonprofit, your feature film, and everything that goes within all of that. And a lot of people have learned about your story through your testimony through North Point. So North Point, when someone gives a testimony, they do these great video kind of things.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. And my dog's wagging his tail. And so they do these great video breakdowns. And so you shared your story. And that kind of opened the gates for a lot of people because they were able to see and identify with your story, and a lot of what you went through and the path that you took to get through that, it resonates with a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Because forgiveness was a very key component to that.
My name is Mark Goodman. I was raised in Detroit, the youngest of 4 boys. Our parents struggled with alcohol, and my brothers and I suffered unimaginable abuses from our father. We would get away from the house as much as possible, and while getting away in the summer at age 15 with my brother and his Jesus hippie friend, they shared with me what it meant to have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, and I accepted him in my heart. I graduated from high school, no opportunity to go to college, and our home life in chaos. My brother and I left Detroit to go live homeless in the streets and beaches of LA for almost a year. I have great memories of that time since being homeless was more peaceful than what we had back at home. I got married, had a beautiful little girl, and life was moving along when on January 3rd of '86, my brother, the same one who led me to the Lord, called me while in the process of taking his own life. It was about that time that my parents sobered up and turned their lives over to Jesus Christ. For the last 23 years of his life, my dad, whom I once viewed as a monster, turned into one of the most wonderful, loving, and godly men I've ever met. I know through Jesus Christ that I've been forgiven, and through him I've learned to forgive. The road may have been tough at times, and it may have taken me a while to learn, but thanks to God, I've learned what it means to be renewed in Christ. And it's because of God's forgiveness and grace, my life is so wonderful, and for that I am so grateful. Life is so good, God is so good. I'd like to thank my beautiful wife, Laura, my many small groups, the North Point production team, and my dad. Yes, my dad, who taught me that you're never too old or have done too much bad to find God's forgiveness and grace. I'm here today to tell the world that Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior.
So That's the basis of the story. I could have been bitter and held on to that anger.
Right.
And I chose a path of forgiveness. But I didn't deal with the consequences of those bottling up, putting up walls, as a lot of people do when they go through temperament. And so that I didn't deal with until just a few years ago, 3-4 years ago.
Okay.
And so I'm coming out with the book. It's being pitched this fall. Mm-hmm. And a big part of it is not dealing with just forgiving the offense and the offender, but dealing with the consequences as we put up walls to protect ourselves and have years of bad relationships and all sorts of other issues that come from being hurt. Right. And hanging on to that pain, shame, and blame for so long that those consequences, by hanging on to that, end up being a lot of times worse than the act itself.
So you found a lot of freedom in the process of reconciling with your father 2.0.
Absolutely. Huge.
But after this reconciliation, then began this road to, I guess, recovery in a sense, where then you started dealing with your own
consequences of it, because I spent years before forgiving my dad, spent years of dealing with those bad issues and hanging on to those bad issues. I never forgave my dad for those consequences.
Right.
And so that's what I like to talk about in the book. That's what we're dealing with in the documentary. Mm-hmm. The movie, the made for the full feature movie, will probably not cover that. They have to make it interesting based on a true story.
Right.
So that's being done by a third-party production company on their own with the movie and the documentary.
Yeah. So was I right in my timeline that you reconciled with your father and
then dealt with those other issues?
Okay. Let me ask you.
Sure.
What did Jesus do? Where's Jesus in that?
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, I don't think it, and I know I never would have made it as far as I had if not Jesus weren't part of that picture.
Right.
Because when I was 15, in the middle of all that chaos, is when I came to know the Lord. And I mean, that was just phenomenal in the first part of having God to lead me, to hold on to me, to keep me in safety during that period of time.
Yeah. Was this when you were in L.A.?
Before in L.A.
Before L.A.
This was right in the middle of all that chaos.
Yeah.
So I was still at home, and all that stuff was going on.
Somehow, within all that chaos, well, what happened? I mean, how did someone pick you up? Church van swooped you up? Or what happened?
That's somewhat of an interesting story in itself. My brother, the same one who took his own life, came to know Jesus. And he was hanging out at this farm just outside of Detroit with a gentleman by the name of Chuck Fields. I remember him well. Jesus freaks, as they used to call him back then. Jesus hippies. They had different names for him. We'd listen to Godspell. They would smoke a joint and have Bible study, right? Yeah. Dude, man, open up Matthew.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So I was only 15. They wouldn't let me drink or smoke or anything else. But man, did they love Jesus and a personal relationship with Jesus. So not the religious kind. It was a personal relationship.
Yeah.
And they shared with me about God. And
is this part going to be in the movie?
I sure hope so. I do
too.
I do.
That's going to mess with some people's theology.
You better bet you. And I'm okay with that. I am okay with that. Because it is about a relationship.
Yeah.
And too many people forget that. They look at it as what we have as Christians is a religion. And it's not. It is about a relationship. Right. And that relationship with my Heavenly Father protected me. Yeah. Now, I got away, like so many of those stories, got away from the Lord. Mm-hmm. But in 2014, I got into a small group. And in a small group setting, for those of you who don't know, often you share your story. Yeah. Right? And often people share the story, well, I did this, I did that. Ooh, big deal. The first guy gets up in a story, he just throws up. When I say throw up, I mean emotionally throws up his real story. And I was just in awe that he shared all the transparency. Yeah. Was so awesome.
Fantastic.
And I'd been holding on to these secrets for
Thank God for him to set that bar, right?
He did.
Yeah.
And finally, I take my wife to the side, and I said, in our small group, I'm going to tell my story. And I'm going to share stuff I've never told anybody, including you, my wife. I don't want you to hear it in somebody's living room. Yeah. Blah. Right. And I shared. And just give you an example of some of the emotional baggage, although I forgave the offender and the offended, I was addicted to chaos, almost like PTSD, form of PTSD. I loved it when things were in turmoil, good and bad.
Yeah.
I worked at a job where I would travel 2,000 miles per week. Got to catch this flight, catch that flight. That spreadsheet needs
You
to go out.
thrived in
Oh,
that.
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
When everything was calm, everything's good. Bills are paid. Life is good. I'd sink into depression.
Yeah. That's interesting. That sounds a little bit
I
like a
couldn't
drug
handle
addict would kind of functions in that
That's
same way.
correct.
Yeah.
Because I was raised in chaos. That's what I'm comfortable with. That's
Right.
what I'm used to.
Yeah.
Right? And I'd never dealt with it. Never dealt with it. And so that's just one of the many examples of forgiving my dad for that and then dealing with it. I'm comfortable in the silence and the calm now.
Yeah. Wow. Truly?
Truly.
Yeah. I'm not quite comfortable in the calm. I got a little that shoe drop scenario still hangs out.
Oh, one of my favorite songs is by 21 Pilots called Car Radio.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that car radio breaks and he's stuck in the silence.
Yeah.
I just love that song.
Yeah. All right. So you make this. You say you're comfortable in the peace.
That's correct.
So either I'm going okay, bull,
Right?
or how are you comfortable? What practical disciplines are you instituting that keep you there?
It's even hard to explain that. So it's much of this is a God thing. This is where Jesus steps in here. Okay.
Yeah.
So it really is.
You're talking about a spiritual experience.
Spiritual experience.
Yeah.
Because of the fact of, I worked at it. I realized that it was a problem. I prayed for it. Mm-hmm. My wife to this day can't imagine because I loved to travel. You got to realize that I could. There was a time, a good portion of my life where I could just live on the road. I could live out of hotel rooms for the rest of my life, and I was comfortable with that. From one city to the next.
Yeah.
Seeing new things, trying new foods, meeting new people. That was
Right.
my life. Loved it. Now I love being at home. I absolutely love being home. I don't want to travel.
Yeah.
My wife is just still to this day can't quite figure that out because I can't quite figure it out either.
Right.
Now I'm still an extrovert, right? I'm not an introvert. So extroverts draw energy from around. So often instead of working at home in a quiet office, I at a Starbucks.
Right.
But how to explain that somehow or another I'm comfortable in the peace? It's just being comfortable in the fact of I am a damaged person. I trust the Lord. Mm-hmm. I trust I got my part to do and give God the rest. I've got my part to do.
Yeah.
Give God the rest.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that for me.
Yeah.
And I forgive my dad for what he did. I forgive my dad for who he did, what he did, and I'd forgive my dad for having years of this stuff going on inside of my head.
Well, it sounds like you're comfortable accepting the grace of God.
Absolutely.
I just had a conversation with a friend about this that recently, like, we haven't been super busy, right? Mm-hmm. I've been a guy that's been on the go, like 100 miles an hour, pedal to the metal.
Right.
And now I'm not. And so I'm very uncomfortable in that situation.
Okay.
And so what I had was a revelation to say, wow, I can't even chill for a couple days. Something has to be going. And I thought, man, if I have a hard time with that, how well am I really receiving the grace of God? And I guess it's kind of the scandal of grace, right? And really what people reject is this idea that, wait, it's okay. I'm okay. You're picking up the slack. You're filling the gap, right? And so it sounds to me like you've come to an understanding to say, I'm accepting God's grace, and that's kind of giving you a pathway to peace.
I'm quite comfortable with it. And I often thought that I was one that was screwed up. And I've realized that I'm not the only one. And we are flawed individuals. And I'm comfortable with God picking up the slack on the difference.
Yeah.
And not only am I comfortable with it, it feels great.
Right.
So here's one for you. Have you ever sat in a Starbucks and you're feeling you got all those things going through your head and you're feeling I'm screwed up, and you look around and this person's got their act together and they're wearing these nice clothes and they pulled up their Mercedes and I'm the one that's messed up now. Only to find out through this nonprofit and through this ministry, this work that I'm working on for forgiveness, that all of us are feeling that way. So that person sitting on the other side is looking over at the bald guy with the big smile saying, man, he's got his act together. I'm the one that's screwed up. And we're all playing the same game, right? Well, you know what? We're all flawed.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
So it's something about the transparency, especially us guys. What we tend to do is, hey, how you doing? Good. How's work? Yeah. How's the family?
Right.
How about those Falcons? All right, good. We're tight. You know?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. No, to take off that mask and say, This is the real me.
Yeah. Well, and what I've noticed is men don't know how to be friends. You know, there's several relationships, because I feel very intentional about reaching out. I feel like that's much like how what you do in here. I feel like reaching out to people, talking to people is very key. I think it's creates the environment for them to be able to open up. And it's so surprising how bad they are at being friends.
Well, when you say friends, a lot of people that are watching this right now is saying,
Yeah.
but I've got male
I'm
friends.
your friend, yeah.
I got friends. I
hey,
got
buddy,
friends.
why are you mad at me?
Right.
Yeah.
But that's not what you're talking about.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
I'm talking about a real relationship.
A real relationship. They know the real Christian.
Yeah.
Good,
Right.
bad, or other way. Often, if I open up that Pandora's box, you're not going to like me.
Right.
Ooh.
Right. Yeah.
I'm doing in Facebook. A lot of Facebook people hide behind Facebook. I can be, I'm doing well. I've got this. I've got that. Right.
Right. Or we take the best parts of all the people that are in our feed and we assemble some super fake human, and then we compare ourselves to that.
It's really cool about it is through this of sharing and taking my mask off and sharing the real Mark, the flawed Mark, is people are throwing up on me in the sense that they're telling me stories that they've been holding on to for years and they've never told anybody.
Right.
And they've been carrying around this backpack of pain, shame, and blame.
Right.
It finally says, hey,
Yeah.
I've been carrying this around in tears. I've never shared this with anybody.
Right.
And it's so refreshing, the freedom that's found in forgiveness.
Right.
Because often we think, if I let you go, if I forgive you, if I can't let this go. If I forgive you, somehow or another, I said, it's okay what you did to me. And it's not.
Right.
And it doesn't make you weak. Actually, it makes you stronger. It doesn't make you out of control. It puts you in control.
Right.
As long as you're carrying this around, they've moved on. You're still the victim.
Right. It's a paradox, which I'm finding is that it's like when you let go, then you get control. It's
You get control. It's a
when you
weird
finally
thing.
accept and surrender. The thing that you really want is when you end up getting what you really want. It's this
So
whole,
often when somebody's got a really, really big item to forgive, I'll have them start on a smaller item. Just set that aside for a while. Set that aside. Get a little taste of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you have kind of stepped out and in your own started reaching out to people. I'm sure as people started calling you, hey, I got this forgiveness problem.
Yeah.
So is that what kind of prompted this? How do you get from just taking calls, working your job, and doing that to 501(c)(3), doing this whole process? What prompted you to go that route?
Christian, I wish I could tell you.
Yeah.
So that's, again, it's really more of a God thing. It kind of merged into that. I went to share my story with people who do videos and production.
Yeah.
Right? To do like a 15-minute YouTube version of it. They heard my story and they said, no, this is not a YouTube. We want to make a full motion picture and a documentary out of it. So they were working on, so if you go to forgivingagoodman.com, making fun of my last name, forgivingagoodman.com. Right? That is that's their site.
Yeah.
So that they're working on the movie and the documentary. So I've taken it and then gotten with.
It's a movie and a documentary.
Yeah, the movie is based on a true story. Nobody wants to hear a story. Mark was born in Detroit, and blah blah blah. Nobody wants to see a story like that.
Right.
So they're taking parts of it and then make it into so they're working on story development right now.
Right.
So I have no idea what it's going to end up being like.
And also doing a documentary with that.
The documentary, they're finally like, this is being filmed right now by documentary people, right? That'll be added to it. That will tell the whole and the complete story. God will be in that one. The movie, they don't want to make a boring Christian film. It isn't. Yeah. It'll have forgiveness and redemption, but not. And meanwhile, write in the book. So I've done all my part, handed off to, I guess you'd call it a ghostwriter, all my 2 years worth of notes. He's finishing up the book. And that'll be pitched to publishers this fall.
Now, how does the book come along?
The book it's too many books on forgiveness. Make it sound as though I just read this book and I've got it and I can... Right? Or from a Christian world, I love this one. Just leave it at the cross.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
Right, yeah. This was one of the things we talked about in the first time we interviewed. It was these formulaic answers to this complex gray areas. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody cut me off on the way over here to your place, right?
Right.
I can just leave that at the cross. I'm good with that, right?
Right.
My dad sexually abused his kids.
Yeah.
Okay? I can't just, I forgive them, leave it at the cross.
Right.
It'd be nice if it worked that way. And then some of the stories that I hear from other people, it's just horrific.
Right.
So, no, it's very complex. So it is a path, and that's why we call it path to forgiveness.
Right.
Right? It's not just a simple little thing. Some of them are short paths.
Right.
Some of them could be brutally long paths. Some of them we don't even start with saying forgiveness. Some of them just giving hope.
Right.
We're dealing with the gentleman during the holidays. He tried to take his own life. Started his car up. Wife caught him, broke out the windows. Thank God. And he's working on forgiveness, and he's doing amazingly well. But we didn't start with forgiveness. We started with hope.
Right. Yeah.
We started with hope.
So this happens, and then these people hear about you because they've heard of your story or whatever.
Correct.
So then they call you.
That's correct.
Now you can only take so many calls.
Oh, yes, sir.
Right, and you can only be
That's
so many,
correct.
and you can't be all things to all people.
That's correct.
Right.
No.
So that's kind of why you go. Let's create the infrastructure to be able to do something about that.
That's correct.
Is that where kind of...
You very good.
Yeah.
Because that is right now. If in fact the movie does get done, right? There's still a bunch of steps. Who knows?
Right.
It's looking good, but there's even going to be a lot more people wondering and asking about forgiveness. Right?
Yeah.
And so I get 42,000 calls tomorrow. How do we handle it? So just like you scale a business, how do you scale it? And hoping that the book will be a success.
Right.
How do you scale that? And so what we're doing is an online assessment. So it's 70x7.org, 70x7.org.
Now, why is it 70 times 7?
That's a great question. See, a lot of times it's how often should we forgive?
Right.
And Peter came to Jesus.
So there's an account. Jesus is rolling with the disciples.
You got it,
right? So one of the disciples asked Jesus, and it's almost like the way he asked the question. I love Jesus stories because it's so amazing. But it's almost
The
like
Bible's actually interesting to read if you
it
give it
is.
a chance.
It is, and it's like they ask him like, "Yo, so how many times I gotta forgive? 7 times?"
Like I got it.
Like
man.
he's thinking like, it's almost like kind of, a douchey kind of
Yeah,
response to him. And Jesus sees right through the bull and right to the heart and tells him, no. 70 times 7, which is just,
He's not classic Jesus parable way of saying you always forgive.
You always forgive.
Always forgive. You know what's cool about it? Goes on in Romans 12:19 goes on and saying about is not only should you just forgive, but you should heap upon the other person is if they're hungry, feed them. If they're thirsty.
Yeah.
And here's the weird part of it is it goes on in the Bible and says by doing so you heap coal on their heads by doing it, which is kind of funny because to truly forgive, I don't want coal on your heads.
Right.
But
you know what the coals on your head is?
Tell me.
So the coals on your head was an ancient kind of way of when you admitted that you were wrong and that you would there was this basket that you would put these coals in and then you would put over your head and you would walk around and so the smoke would be coming up and it was like a acknowledgement to you and your tribe that you were wrong.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So heaping coals is not like a mean
like a mean way,
shovels.
right.
It's him saying that you'll bring to light this whole thing.
Yeah. But it's still that's the beauty of it. It's taking the high road, and that not only did I forgive them, but I want what's I want them to excel and do well. The whole point of getting rid of that backpack has nothing to do about them. It has everything to do about carrying that weight.
Yeah.
So anyways, Matthew 18:22, that's where it comes from. It's not 7 times, but 70 times 7.
Right.
So although this is, we're calling this a faith-based nonprofit, so not to alienate those, any non-believers out there. This is not limited to somebody who believes in God, believes in Christ.
Right.
For anybody, this story still applies, right?
Yeah.
So it's 70 times 7. So the website now is basically more informational, some media. We're working, it's going to take almost a year. It's about a 9-month project to put together this assessment and put together all this content to help people on your own personalized path. So once you go through and answer these questions, send you on your personalized path to grab your hand and come on, let's go. We'll get.
So you'll have curriculum, you'll have books, you'll have things that people will need to
short videos, little snippets.
Right.
That's great. That's
okay.
We're going to take it one step at a time.
Right.
That's correct. So really, there are six elements to this whole project. Is the movie, the documentary, the book, the online assessment, and then the other 2 is really we're working towards a small group curriculum based on forgiveness, and then just a weekday inspirational on forgiveness.
Yeah.
So hopefully you come to the website, get signed up for our updates.
Right.
And it just, some of it may be videos, some may be a meme, some of it just a one sentence word, stories of forgiveness, just to keep you in mind. Because it wants to creep back. Anybody who's been through a major item to have to forgive, it's hard. It's hard.
It does.
It wants to creep back, and if you don't stay on top of it.
Yeah. So the interesting thing as you're explaining all this, I just keep it 100. It's like, shouldn't the church already be doing all this?
They do. They do. And they're in the church business.
Okay.
Right?
So sometimes it sounds like I bash churches, and I don't. I love church. I love the local church. I'm a member of a church.
Okay.
I give. I serve at a church.
Right.
I love church. I love pastors. But what's interesting to me is that it takes you, a person who's not a pastor, not a person, to come in and say, you know what, this is a big deal. We need to do something about it. And we need, and in a big way, because unforgiveness is, I don't know if you've ever seen those feeling wheels, right? Where it's like, if you're feeling angry, you can trace it down to a more accurate, right? So a lot of anger comes out of fear, right? I'm losing control. I'm going to get angry. I'm going to get big. I'm going to get loud, and I'm going to get control of the situation again.
That's great.
Right?
Yeah. It's
and
good.
so with forgiveness,
So
it's
true.
like, when you're acting this certain way, which I think is what you found, you're acting this certain way, and you're like, why do I keep doing this? This is the disproportionate response to whatever's happened. And you can kind of trace down. And I'll be real. So this is the thing for me. My kids. So a lot of my drug use was during, specifically my son.
Okay.
A lot of my drug use was during the times when he was growing up.
Okay.
And so I have this great, and this is for my own self, I haven't forgiven myself completely for not pouring into him. Even just talking about it right now, it's real talk. I mean, this hurts. For not pouring into him those years. I can remember like going downstairs into the basement, shutting the door, and then like, you know, because I was doing my drugs down there, you know. So I didn't want my kid down there. So I recently just really realized, man, I have this unforgiveness of myself that I'm not forgiving myself for the years of what I think is misuse. I was always a provider, never beat my kids, you know, maybe yell at them, but you know what I'm saying? But still, I know the importance, especially for a young person, to be poured into at those key ages, you know? And so it's really hard for me to forgive myself, to say, you know what, God can cover that. I can move on. And so I still personally deal with that. I mean, it's something, because I had the conversation with a friend where something disturbs my peace. Why does this person not turning, why does it disturb my peace? Because this person not turning or not putting their blinker on should not disturb the peace I have in my heart. And so it's like to trace it back and go back and back, and then go, wait a minute, I'm pretty mad at myself still. You know, and so if I can learn, sounds like I need to be a patient here, but if I can learn, right, to truly come to that point of saying, I forgive myself, then I can experience the freedom that goes beyond that, right? And so that's probably what a lot of your assessment is to really dig down, right?
And the closer it gets to home, if you're taking that big circle, the closer it gets to home, the tougher it can be.
Yeah.
A stranger, a cousin,
right,
brother,
yeah,
mom, dad,
right,
me,
yeah,
the tougher it gets.
yeah.
Okay?
Great, that's good.
It really is.
It is.
And so often it's kind of like one of those things, you can, you know, you mess with my kids, you know, you're in trouble.
Right, yeah.
So anyway, yeah, it can be really tough. And so I look at it almost like a court case. And I mean in that sense of this is, first of all, is somebody wronged you, is a willingness to prosecute. Are you willing to prosecute? Are you willing to deal with this?
Right.
Because often you're not dealing with, I don't have to.
Right.
If I don't mess with this, I don't say anything, life goes on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Right.
I'm willing to. Okay, now we're going to have an investigation.
Okay.
Before?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Which means that you may have to open all that stuff back up again.
Yeah.
Right? Open up those wounds all over again. In my case, I went back and I interviewed previous family from not previous friends from back in Detroit,
Uh-huh.
family members. What happened? Go through and investigate, and even give yourself a chance to say, you know what? At the time, I thought I was doing all right.
Yeah.
So you got to hear from the defendant. In this case, you're the defendant.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's great.
And then go through that, and then finally take it to the judge,
right.
and the ultimate judge,
Yeah.
God,
Right.
right? And saying, how do you find this? But to get yourself out of the judgment business, which
Right.
is in the heart of forgiveness.
Yeah.
And that is just a willingness to put it all on the table. So anyways, you look at it and say, look, like many other people, I was messed up at the time. I thought I was all right. I thought I had it all together.
Yeah.
And give yourself a little bit of a break.
Right.
And I assume that you went to your children and asked for forgiveness?
I have.
I
have.
Right.
Yeah.
So you did all this right steps. You're clean. You're doing
Yeah.
great. That's fantastic, sir.
Yeah.
You got a great story.
Right.
And you're helping other people because
Right.
of that story.
Yeah, but I can still trace it back, and so it's good. I think it's a healthy place to be able to identify where my real emotions are coming from.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but also like what you just did to be able to break that down is, I think it's important that you're not just creating all this hoopla and trying to get out there in front of people. Look at me. I mean, you believe this, you live this, you work this, and these movies, these books, all these things are just tools to help people to kind of get their attention to go, oh, I can be free of this. I can be free of this.
Right. If you look at the writings on this, it's really about the freedom found in forgiveness, the power in forgiveness.
Yeah.
So that's really the goal, is the freedom. The goal is not the forgiveness. The forgiveness gets you to the freedom. In other words, I've been carrying around this weight for so long. The forgiveness gives me the freedom so that I'm not angry. I'm not all these other issues that,
whatever
like
it
my
is.
own that I was dealing with. And we don't have time to go through all of them. Anger was part of it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But I don't have to deal with those anymore. I found freedom.
Yeah.
That's the goal, is freedom from this pain, shame, and blame
Yeah.
for what we've done to ourselves, what we did to others, or what others have done for you.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can seem like it's way too big, but you don't know my story.
Right.
You don't know my
You don't
story.
know what I've
you know
been
what?
through.
You're right. You earn every bit to carry it around. If you want to carry that around,
It's you. Yeah.
it's you, baby. You got every right. You earn.
Yeah.
What they did to you was awful. You're right. You should be pissed off.
Yeah.
And stay pissed off.
Yeah.
They've moved on, and you keep carrying around that weight the rest of your life if you want to. You got that choice.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And you can still be the victim. You can still be in the passenger seat, or you can open that up, look at it, get it all out there, get rid of it, and get back in the driver's seat. Quit being the victim.
Yeah.
And have this wonderful, wonderful life free of pain, shame, and blame.
Yeah. At the heart of forgiveness, I think, is the kingdom principles that Jesus teaches. So I think that what you're doing is amazing, because I think that it hides beneath the surface of so many issues on forgiveness, and so
We're dealing with the real world.
we're dealing with it.
Not from a nice Christian friend, although God is smack dab in the middle of all this.
Right. Yeah.
People can find forgiveness without God, but ultimately is to have that ultimate judge.
Yeah.
But there's a psychology part element combined together into the real world of how to find true forgiveness.
Yeah.
That's what this is all about.
Yeah.